Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, sitting down for a little bit of an Xbox news update, our last one of the week. I know it's been a lot lately, but quite frankly, there's just been so much to talk about between Redfall, Starfield, and just all the things happening with Xbox. Today we're getting into news that broke yesterday about Xbox making a little bit of a bold step forward as they're activating a partnership. We got some more updates on the front of the Activision Blizzard acquisition that I just wanted to talk about to round out this week, as it's Friday, and then next week is going to be really busy with the PlayStation Showcase and the aftermath of that, and I'm just very curious to see what they bring to the table. Certainly we'll have leaks and rumors to cover, so I'm excited to dive into all of that, but one last Xbox video for good measure, shall we? Let's do this. I don't want to jinx it. It's like when you watch baseball and they start talking about the perfect game while it's happening, and then suddenly the perfect game ends. You know, I just want to say there haven't been many leaks. Haven't been too many. We'll see what happens. But right now, we're surprisingly clear, and we're in the middle of May, where by this point, I thought we'd know a lot more. We'll see, though. May have just jinxed it, but ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today. Let's talk about this Xbox partnership. So we already knew that Xbox has been signing 10-year deals left, right, and center all over the place, right? And this has been something they've been doing to just ease some of the concerns of regulators and surrounding companies to gain approval so that they can put forward the Activision Blizzard acquisition and move on with their plans. Now, of course, as we've already covered here, the CMA has blocked it, the FTC has blocked it, but the EU has approved. And Xbox has made another step forward to help put some pressure on regulators who were concerned about cloud gaming with activating their partnership with Nvidia and GeForce Now. When we first heard about this, it was already written in Nvidia's post that this would happen immediately. But I think personally, as someone who went over that information at the time when it first released here on this channel and also on Defining Duke, one thing that I talked about there was kind of that you imagine this partnership will actually begin in earnest when the deal is approved. Because at that point, it was just the FTC in the way, but we were still waiting to hear from the CMA, who at that time, we were all expecting to say yes, because their main concern seemed to be about Call of Duty, and then the EU, which we now know how both these ended up. So at that time, a lot of the interpretation was, okay, when you say immediately, you don't really mean it. Well, no, actually, Gears 5 and a couple other Xbox exclusives are making their way to GeForce Now. We're going to read the Xbox Wire post because the wording is very specific, and I want to point it out and then get into much more. So let's get started. Sarah Bond writes on the Xbox Wire, "We're thrilled to share that starting today, Nvidia GeForce Now cloud gaming members in the UK, the US, and the European Union and around the world can stream Gears 5, and on May 25th, we'll be able to enjoy fan favorites Deathloop, Grounded, and Pentiment." There's more to read, but let's just remember right now how they started that off. They started with the UK, the US, and then the EU, and around the world, by the way. So they're targeting the three major regulators. Very, very interesting to say the UK first and foremost, but it all propels the conversation because now we know what the target, what the aim is here with this type of move. So let's finish reading. "This is just the beginning stage of our forward-thinking 10-year partnership with Nvidia to make PC games from Xbox Game Studios and Bethesda available to their GeForce Now members. Together, we're accelerating access to players around the globe by letting them choose how and when they game. The initial slate of launch games spans our catalog, providing players high-quality, immersive titles with a little something for everyone, single-player campaigns, story-driven experiences, and opportunities to play with friends and family through multiplayer. Following this initial release, we'll continue to add more content from our portfolio on a regular basis to ensure players can always find a new and exciting game. News and release dates will be shared via GFN Thursday updates, which is over on GeForce Now. Members will be able to stream PC hits from Xbox Game Studios and Bethesda purchased through Steam or Epic Game Store for eligible games on PC, Mac, Shield TV, and Android devices, or by visiting play.geforcenow.com on Chromebook and iOS Safari. Our teams are also working to bring support for games purchased through the Microsoft Store in the coming months. This is the first in a series of partnerships we're activating to make our PC games available to players globally throughout a variety of cloud gaming services, starting with Nvidia GeForce Now and with Boosteroid, Ubitus, EE, and Enware in the future. We remain committed to releasing current titles from Xbox Game Studios and Bethesda and future Activision Blizzard PC games once Microsoft's acquisition closes. Phil Spencer said on the deal that today's announcement marks a big milestone in our promise to bring more games to more people, however they choose to play. So yeah, they're saying this is the start of it and we're going to do more of it over time, and that we're going to continue to do this so long as when the deal closes that we can do that. So the GeForce Now is more of a display of what this, we'll say, cloud gaming partnership is going to look like for all the others. Now, make no mistake, I do believe Xbox's intentions of being available on any screen, just because they're a services and content driven corporation. Like, they want to be on every screen. It just makes sense for them on a business level. But make no mistake, there's a lot of showmanship here, okay? And I don't necessarily think there's something wrong with that, but it's just something you, as the listener, should be privy to. Xbox is 100% doing this so that they can show regulators like the CMA, who cited major concerns with cloud gaming competition, that, hey, look how we're making it better. How can you continue to argue this? And then eventually when they go to court, where right now 37 or 38 different regulators have approved the deal and don't have much concerns. Make no mistake, again, the CMA, the FTC, and the EU kind of have some of the bigger says compared to other parts of the world. But there's a massive amount of approval behind this deal, and then you start to show the benefits of the thing that the CMA is arguing against. And make no mistake, as I said last time, they're trying to put the CMA on an island, and I think ultimately avoid the solution that we were discussing in a previous video, which was, Satya Nadella subtly smiling and suggesting that they are keeping the option open to steamroll over the UK and close the deal, just considering the EU and the USA and everyone else who has approved it. Again, I don't think that's best for Microsoft's strategy, especially because Xbox is trying to be more global, and we've seen some statistics suggesting that compared to previous generations, they've slowed down in the UK, so I feel like it only supports that argument. But I think ideally, if you are a company trying to sell your service everywhere, you need every subscriber you can get, anywhere you can get it. And so I think personally, they're going to try to avoid that reality and isolate the CMA in different ways. To me, the surprise isn't that it's happening. It's more so that they did it especially after the deal getting blocked in different areas. I know the 10-year partnership was there, but to me, it felt more like, hey, we're agreeing on this upon conclusion, but they actually have lived up to their word here with GeForce Now. And it's surprising because they do, we'll say, even the scales a bit. I don't think I'm biased, but I personally think that Xbox Cloud Gaming is just the best cloud gaming experience you can get. The lack of latency, the responsiveness, the graphical quality, especially on my Logitech gaming handheld. I mean, I'm just consistently impressed by it. And I've tried Nvidia GeForce Now extensively. I played a Plague Tale Requiem on it to try it out over there, and it's great. Don't get me wrong. There's a fraction of latency I noticed, but really the big thing I recognized was the time it takes to start up a game. Like Xbox, it's just boom in a snap. With GeForce Now, at least again on wireless handheld device, may differ from system to system, I noticed that took a little bit longer. So I just think it's interesting to see Xbox kind of tipping the scales to a little bit more of an even playing field. But I view it a bit like Steam. Where Xbox knows, like, hey, we're gonna, with our Azure servers, be the dominant cloud gaming provider, just like Steam knows we're the dominant PC market. But they're not gonna feel too threatened by having the same games that are on their storefront, or in this case, the cloud gaming service, over on something like Origin or GOG. They're not threatened in that way, and I think Xbox is the same way, that offering those games almost strengthens them in their eyes. Anyway, that's what's going on with the deal right now when it comes to Xbox and Nvidia, and I mentioned how some other approvals are coming in. Now, according to Seeking Alpha, they have stated that China will now approve the deal. It writes, China's State Administration for Market Regulation granted unconditional approval for the deal late in the Phase 3 review, according to a deal reporter item, which cited sources familiar. The China approval comes after the European Union also blessed the video game mega deal on Monday with conditions. Though China and Europe are important, the UK antitrust regulators' decision to block the deal last month is seen as a large stumbling block that could also ultimately lead to its termination. The US Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, also sued to block the $95 a share deal for Activision in December, with a trial scheduled to start in August. Yeah, of course, make no mistake that while this is all interesting, none of this changes that we won't see this deal go through until August, and then whenever the trial starts and that's all sorted out, that's when we may start to see towards the end of this year, beginning of next year, middle of next year. I mean, it'll be a while. We're going to be talking about this a lot. So for those of you who are getting fatigued, prepare yourselves. We're just going to hear about it more and more and more. Meanwhile, Take-Two and EA have chimed in on the deal. Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick said, "What's good for them is good for the industry," following that up by saying, "I think it's important to never confuse a distribution technology with a business model," Zelnick said. "I would love to believe that streaming our titles would massively expand the marketplace. I'm not sure there's any reason to believe that," end quote. Meanwhile, EA CEO is indifferent to Microsoft's Activision deal and that they will still be the #1 publisher according to them. I thought this one was a more interesting and enlightening response, as they say, in a Q&A following the company's latest earnings call on Tuesday, Andrew Wilson was asked what he thinks the implications of the deal are for the video games industry and for future consolidation. He says, "This is a question I get asked a lot. I almost am never allowed to answer that question, as it turns out," the exec replied. "What I would say is I don't know what's going to happen with Activision and Microsoft. Again, we continue to be Microsoft's biggest partner. I think we're the #1 publisher on their platform, so whether the deal goes through or not is not really material to us broadly. We think we have the scale with our network, our IP, and our talent to continue to navigate the future and lead the future of entertainment and compete in a marketplace regardless of whether that deal goes through or not." This is important because when you look around the games industry, PlayStation was the one battling back the most publicly, of course, with things like Call of Duty and exclusivity. Now, what's interesting to note is in the EU's report, as I had covered, yeah, they actually didn't think that Call of Duty going exclusive was going to be a problem at all, and that PlayStation has plenty of other resources to fight back against that, and it wouldn't spell the end of them. Something that even the CMA eventually agreed upon too. So a lot of that argument has dried up for PlayStation, and since the FTC's moved to block it, the CMA's moved to block it, that's why you've seen PlayStation go quiet, especially because now they have shifted their focus and their attention to a showcase. And granted, there are multiple divisions within the company, but my point being is that's where the public eye has also focused as well. But there haven't been any bold comments from Jim Ryan. We haven't gotten much of that, but what we did get was stuff from Google originally. But aside from all of that, we're seeing pretty unanimous approval or whatever to this deal across the industry, which is again a good sign for Xbox. Does it speed things up? No, but these are things they can go back, pick up, and reference in their legal battles that will undoubtedly ensue. But that is the synopsis of the bold move and how things can roll a bit in Xbox's direction here following this Nvidia partnership activating. And I just wanted to share some thoughts on it because, again, I thought it was surprising that they're striking right away with everything getting blocked. But that's it for your Xbox news today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you greatly, and I'm looking forward to seeing what next week brings us with finally a major showcase. So be sure to sound off down below on what you think is going on with Xbox, Nvidia, these deal approvals, and what some of these companies are saying. I'm excited to read your thoughts. Other than that, be sure to follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. And a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the hell out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.